All right, we're going to begin because it is 1 minute till 10, but we'll start a little early. So welcome. I see a ton of faces, most of whom I recognize, which is awesome, but also some new faces. So thank you for coming and spending your Wednesday morning, or in some cases evening, for those of us who are overseas. Yeah, this is just a really cool time that we've kind of built into our monthly habits of spending time with friends, all along kind of our lean journey, people we met along the way, and kind of dive into one of the topics that we have chosen. Today we're going to be talking about visual management system, which is part of our DMS series. And to be honest, a big part of that is because visual management system is kind of one of the things that, out of all the things, I think we do this pretty well. We have some good systems in place. And we're excited to kind of talk through the thinking behind some of those systems, and then also share some of our tools that I have. I have some digital to share, and then also some physical ones with me as well. But before that, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Tucker. I work here at Kaas Tailored. I've been here for about 8 years, and I have, in that time, been a frontlines worker. I got the opportunity to lead Bryce Yamasaki, who's on the line here, back when he was an intern in the frame department. I got moved out of that department into the GM department. So I work alongside Ken Govertson, our general manager, and kind of help doing different things like tours. And right now I'm actually taking a stint in the wood shop to get that place ready for scale. So a lot of fun things. So that's me. I also have with me Chris Osborne, also known better as Oz. Oz is the experience designer here at Kaas, and he was one of the 2 or 3 people that kind of developed a lot of our visual tools. So he'll be kind of giving that perspective of someone who's actually implemented a visual management system. We also have Kelly Johnson. Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself, if you don't mind?
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I work in our sales department. I've been with Kaas Tailored for actually a little over 20 years. So I've been here before we even had VMS or Kaizen or any of that stuff. And I've lived through lots of different additions and changes to our visual management system. And we use it a little bit differently in admin versus production, but it's all tells the same story. Yep.
Yeah, so that's us. We'll kind of be kind of plugging away with some content, and also, like the other calls have been, largely a discussion, because we think that the kind of the best value that we can give is kind of community, or one of the better values we can give is a sense of community. So the plan is to kind of work through kind of why visual management systems are important, kind of what you should get out of a visual management system. If you've been to, places like Genie or Toyota, or, a lot of these kind of benchmarks for visual tools, it can be very overwhelming. Just because it's visual does not mean it's usable or simple. So we'll give kind of our take on the system in general. And then we'll kind of share some of our artifacts and then open up for Q&A. So if you have any questions at any time, please put that in the comment section, and I'll be looking through the comments as the time progresses. So first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to get into our first breakout session. One of the pieces of feedback we've gotten from those of you who've been with us for a few of these is the first one's always way too short, because you kind of are doing an assignment, but also wanting to know like who else is in this room, because it's kind of creepy to just be like, here's a bunch of new friends, go play. So we're going to have a 10-minute set, roughly 8 to 10 minute session. First 2 minutes, spend time getting to know everyone, introduce within the cohorts, and then from there, I'll send out the kind of the assignment. The assignment is to basically talk about the current state of your organization. So how currently does information get passed along, and how do you understand truth? The importance there is the truth part. And how long does that take? And bonus question, if you have something to add, maybe compare pre-COVID and the COVID era and see maybe if that's the same or different. Might be an interesting thing. So if you guys don't have any, or does anyone have any questions on that before I'm gonna open up the breakout
Can
rooms.
you repeat the
Yep.
questions again, Tucker?
Yes, I am going to
Thank
actually
you.
do one better. I'm going to post it in the chat. So you all should all have it. But basically, how do you get and understand truth? And how long does it take? So I'm going to open all rooms and set a timer and see. All right.
No,
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. Everyone's back, Doug. So we're going to continue on with the show. Okay, so what we're going to do is I forgot one step in this session, but that's okay because it's very quick and I'll go ahead and do that. If you could just comment in the chat, kind of some observations that you guys made or kind of describe kind of what you shared with the bigger group, that'd be awesome. And I'll be able to look through that and get some thoughts from you guys. But the basic premise is that we're going through this daily management system series or theme. And daily management system is basically, in other words, the way that we run and manage our operation. And we kind of identified 4 components in this cycle. We've already gone over 2 of them. We're on number 3 today, but I wanted to just give you the big picture. So first part was strategy. Jeff covered that back in September, October. And then last month, we went over the second piece, which is our huddles, our daily huddles, how we communicate information, our information factory, if you may remember that. The third part, which is today, the visual management system. And the fourth part, which will be in January 13th, which is our leader standard work. So basically, in very short terms, it's basically what's your strategy for yourself and for your team, and what leader standard work do you have to achieve that strategy? So that's kind of the daily management system in a nutshell. And we're talking about this one, visual management system. So let's get right into it. So the first purpose of, or the first kind of thing to kind of think about is, why do visual management? I love how Jeff started off last session with, do we even want flow? What is flow? Kind of starting with kind of taking a step back and even asking the question, what is making the work visual even kind of for? Because in reality, you can go to an operation that has a ton of visuals and it actually is counterproductive. It's not actually helping us be any more efficient or communicate any better. So we kind of boiled it down to 2 things. The first thing is it reveals truth. And that's why we kind of asked that question to start us off is, does our current system enable us to get truth in a timely, actionable kind of time zone to be able to actually take action from the truth that we gather? Or do we spend so much time gathering truth that by the time we get the truth is no longer relevant? So that's the first thing. The second thing is it simplifies communication, which then makes sure that the truth can actually be communicated in a clear, concise manner that everyone can understand it. For example, for those of you who've been here before, any one of you who has eyes and maybe aren't colorblind, you could basically look around the entire shop and know some semblance of what the truth is at any given time, because we have these lovely, very expensive beer cups that are actually very cheap. I was kind of kidding, but this conveys status and it can get to the truth, so we can be able to understand that. And really, truth is important because number one, it sets, like Jeff always says, it sets us free. Sets us free from bondage to the 7 wastes, and it kind of frees us up to add value. Whereas if we spend a lot of time looking through reports, getting through information, we're not going to have the truth. We're not going to be able to take action from that. So that's kind of why visual management matters, is because it gets us the truth and it simplifies the communication. And in reality, a lot of people are blown away that we can have 14 different languages spoken here at Kaas Tailored and be able to all interact. And visual management system is a big reason why we can do that. I always say to our tour guests that, and our internal teams that it simplifies it for us, but it also it simplifies it for the people that do speak English. I misunderstand my my buddy Darren, who's our production manager, also kind of my boss right now, and he grew up in Meadowdale and speaks complete, fluent English, and we misunderstand each other way more than me and one of my Vietnamese colleagues that I work with every day, because we don't necessarily use visual signals and we make a lot of assumptions. So that's kind of why visual management system is so important. And I really want to start here before diving into kind of the artifacts and tools that we use to remove motion waste and stuff like that. So does anyone have anything to add on why visuals, from your experience, why making the work visual is so important? Anyone want to share?
I would add that it helps drive accountability when you make things visual.
Yeah. Speak more on that. What do you mean by that?
That if you're, for example, coming to a daily huddle and you have to like say whether you're on track or not, or actually, are we winning or losing? It's accountability to the team and what actions you're taking to get back on track.
Yeah. Really awesome. Anyone else have anything to add?
I think, Tucker, it also adds alignment.
Yeah.
Which is a part of getting to the truth.
Yeah.
If you make it visual, you can see the waste and see the problems, and then you can spot where you're not aligned.
Yeah. Can you speak more to that? And what's maybe an example where you've been able to use visuals to be able to gain alignment?
Yeah, and I think 2 examples, like pre-COVID, when you're in a physical workspace and you can put stuff up on walls or in offices and you can start to see progression towards a goal or a project or a process, you can easily see where maybe red or green or you're off track. I think COVID and the switch to virtual work from home, it's harder because everything's hidden, and the intent of visual management is to pull things out of closed systems and to make the work visual. Well, now we're all living in a closed system world where we can just like close the laptop and be done. So unless you want your at-home space covered with post-its and visual management, we're kind of trying to bend the rules on the principles a little bit. And so I think you have to build new habits around, when do we look at this thing? I'll share my screen, I'll show you that, versus just standing and looking at something. So it's awkward, and I feel like this is a hard place right now, working at Nordstrom, where we're struggling to make not only work but like KPIs or deliverables or progress visual, because it's all in the closed system. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, a lot of the tools that I have even today, like are physical items, which only work if you're in physical spaces. So that's a good point. Cool. So we're going to do our second breakout room, same groups, so you can get to know your cohort a little bit further. This is a different exercise though. So what you're going to do is nominate one lucky person that has a photo of a loved one, available, like on your phone or something like that. And that person will spend, I'll type this in the chat, so actually I'll do it right now so you guys can follow along. So that person will spend 60 seconds, so someone else time them, 60 seconds of explaining what that person looks like and kind of characteristics about them and kind of describe it with words. And then after that 60 seconds, spend 10 seconds just showing the photo, and then discuss kind of what you maybe noticed through that. So one's kind of old school, like we're going to talk about it and maybe you can kind of understand some things, versus showing and power of showing. So this one will have about 4 minutes, so it'll be a little tighter. Welcome back in. So for those of you who are talkative and want to, emote in person, go ahead. Who would like to share? If you'd like to share your thoughts but are a little bit more shy, that's okay. The chat is there for that. The 2 modes of communication. So does anyone want to share what they kind of observed or saw like through that exercise?
We had a really good exercise because one of our members was describing a photo of her son, and she was describing the scene, what he was doing, the surroundings, and then she showed the picture, and what we realized is we actually didn't know what he looked like, what his hair color was, his features, his eye color. And our takeaway from that was, because that's her son, that's to her, like that's just a given. but we don't have that. We don't know that information. So when we see the photo, then we're like, oh, that's your son. That's the boy. He's cute.
Nice.
You know, but we didn't know that stuff when it was being described. And we were talking about how in our real situations that happens where we might be communicating what we think is relevant to the person, but it's stuff that is just, we know it. So we don't think.
That is awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I get that when I coach skiing in the winter, like I explain something, I model it, but they completely miss it, because for me, skiing is like walking. I actually ski better than I walk. If you know me, you know that's true. And so that's very good observation, is that the communicator, part of the reason why visual is so important is that it kind of takes the communicator out of the way, especially if it's a system. So really nice piece. Thank you. Anyone else have a nugget of wisdom like that to share?
I mean, in sharing the photo, so describing a photo is not very exciting. And if I think about what the message is, what I'm really trying to communicate when I'm showing a photo is, look how proud I am of my daughter. She's so cool. I love her so much. You should know that. Whereas like talking about the content of photo is like, there's no meaning or context behind any of that. So regardless of whether or not people know what my daughter looks like, that wasn't the message that I want to deliver. The message I want to deliver is, look at this cool person I'm proud of.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally different meaning. That's really good. Anyone else? We have one in the chat from Chrissy. Description uses the element of imagination. Photo produces reality. So nice. I like that. That's good. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. 1 second. For some reason, Keynote's not working for a sec. There we go. Much better. So what we're going to do is go through some of the artifacts and kind of explain the thinking behind these. So some of these, if you've been here before, you've definitely seen these, but maybe haven't been explained kind of the thinking behind them. So this is our kind of our, what we call the dance floor. It has changed since any of you have been here, because I literally just put up the last editions on Friday. But the purpose of this is actually, I'm going to have Chris Osborne kind of weigh in on this. Oz, what is the purpose of this destination guide, as we call it, and how does it help us get to truth faster?
Good morning. Yeah, the guide itself, let's take a step back. So the dance floor is kind of a hub for all of our most pertinent information or important information. So there's a handful of components that you see there. There's some things we're playing with. So all the little cards you see are all our policies, all our thinking models, all the things that we kind of take for granted, and just like that photo, have a lot of assumptions about till we actually see it. These are the photos on the wall that will kind of communicate those things to everybody in the same way. The destination guide itself, there in the middle, its main purpose is pretty much how it sounds. It's about destinations, and to start with, the most important part being the center, which is where we want to go and who do we want to be. So as a company, we want to shine light wherever we can, and really shine light through the growth of individuals or groups, not necessarily about furniture or product. I think a lot of times companies put their values on the wall. You see a lot of truth, trust, teamwork, all those kinds of things on the wall, and they kind of become dead. Our hope with some of these things is that through constant things like this and teaching and explaining, that we keep these things alive and that we understand them, and we start to actually believe them or decide not to believe them and maybe exit out. So it's super clear as to where the company's going. The second major part of that would be destinations, probably as individuals. So you see, this is basically our org chart. So the top half is people from the shop floor, mainly the people who actually put hands on product. And then the bottom half would be more like there you have finance, you have HR, office of president, and general manager. And this is mainly, it came about to as kind of a subway map of growth, to try to have conversations with individuals to ask them really what they want to do and where they want to go, and try to find a pathway or a subway map that fits who they are and their gifts, and try to get them there in little bits. The other part that, go ahead, Tuck.
Oh, just to mention, if you have any questions at any times, people just, we can't see you. So if you just unmute and start talking, we'll,
go for it.
Answer questions and flow. So these are the content cards you're talking about. So we'll have them kind of more built out. Right now we just did paper just to get quick and dirty up on the wall so we can have a conversation. But at some point they'll look something more similar to this nice tangible card that has some teaching on both sides. But that's kind of the direction we decided to go on that guy. And then you're gonna probably talk about this next, the kata stuff.
Yeah. Kata map is new to us. Kata in general is new to us. I'm not, Tucker can talk about kata probably more than I can. The main thing is this replaces our old business plan. So really the center is where the whole company is trying to go. And then each one of those bigger chunks with a little face by it is a section. And those sections have challenges also that align up to the bigger challenge. So this is trying to pull aligned growth through the company through a tool called Kata. And Tuck, you can talk maybe a minute about Kata.
Yeah, we've talked about it a few times before, but if you want more detail, it'd probably be better served over some virtual coffee. But basically the idea is to identify a big mountain that's kind of scary, which is that central challenge right there in the middle. Like cutting lead time of all value-added activities by 75% is through implementing flow principles. So we're specific on how. That's kind of scary for most of our team members. And so taking that big challenge, dividing it into five smaller challenges for each of the sections, and then each of the departments within that section has a part to own in that. So now instead of having a Hoshin goal kind of planning that has several disconnected challenges, we basically say there's one strategy, going back to what I drew before I erased it. But one strategy of, if we all cut our lead time of design and how we build and how we integrate into our systems, then we're going to have a brighter future here. But it's all now working together, and imperfectly, I would add as well, but it's also part of the journey. So really neat. And then clicking down a layer further, so that was all kind of purpose related stuff. This is our current year board, and we were just, Kelly and Oz and I were just talking before this that we're going to be making some changes to this one because we're not entirely happy with it. But each department has a year-to-date status, and this measures the important things on the wall for every department. So finance, purchasing, production, all measuring the top 3 things, so that every month we can actually know the status of truth. Little bits at a time. So instead of looking at a financial report at the end of the year, we know every month where our financial situation is at. And it kind of brings about quicker action to truth. Whereas, having a lot of lag time in any of those metrics could be very costly for us. So that's our year board. It has an owner, and that person is kind of responsible for these metrics. So if one goes red, like I have one red metric, which is our labor metric in the framing department, I'm responsible. Doesn't mean I caused it. Doesn't mean my ass is on the line or anything like that. It just means that I now have to look into it and try to figure out how to get back towards the green. The next layer down is our today board. So this is our kind of updated daily instead of updated monthly like the last one. And so this one has a date, the previous day, and then the current day, and kind of their capacity, which is the green, yellow, red on the side there. So you see the vertical long yellow strip. That means that IT feels like they're maybe overloaded with work, which, knowing that team right now, they have a couple projects open right now that are super important for the success of the business, and it's a lot of work. So I'm not surprised that they're yellow today, which doesn't mean that you can't bug them or anything like that. It just means that they're at risk for not getting everything done and meeting their commitments. And then there is a space for issues. So on the 25th of November, so this one's getting a little long on the tooth. Crew seating, pack slip printing issues. So there was some issue with that. It's yellow, which means they have a plan to get through it, but it's not solved yet, which would mean it would be green. And there's a today's fix in there. So basically they have a combination of 2 software programs that's getting them through till tomorrow, but it's definitely not ideal. So that's our today board, updated by the owner of that area daily. So this is our kind of, if you look at the dance floor is kind of to the right, this is looking at the entire shop. And the reason why I wanted to show this is that you can't really see it, to be honest, now that I'm looking at it, but you can kind of zoom in. I see 1 red beer cup and about 3 yellows and a bunch of green ones. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. That is the beer cup part of the process. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can actually see this. So we have beer cups. This communicates right now status. So we had today, which is daily, with year, which is kind of monthly, yearly status. This is right now, and it especially in production, changes every few minutes. There's a change in the beer cup. Green means that they have everything that they need in terms of material. They're not running into any issues. They're able to build it in a timely manner, like to the time that was estimated. They're not running into any problems. Yellow means that they are behind, but they have a plan. So in the administrative world, like Kelly and Oz and myself working, for us, it's more of a gut feeling of like, I kind of feel yellow, which means that like I'm at risk if I get interrupted with a bunch of issues. I might not get everything done. And then red is I won't get everything done and I need help. So the cool thing is that this is kind of like a Toyota. They have their and-on lights. This is just a very cheap version of that. But basically, if we run into any problems, like this should be red, it should be escalated to the leader manager, and something should be done about that. And then the cool thing is, it gets paired with this workstation sign thing, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. So there's this is mine, a lovely photo back when I wore glasses for a week. So on this, it says who the person is here with the name, their title, and all their kind of main responsibilities, and the department that they work in. So I'm in the general manager department. And then it has these pull out signs. So green means that this person's available. So if I'm working at my desk and it looks like this, green and green, anyone can kind of interrupt kind of how I interrupt me and ask me questions. If I go like this and I go red door, this would kind of say, kind of go away. I'm busy. And out means I'm out for the day. And back at means like maybe I'm out on vacation or something like that. And so this tool has existed in some form for a while, but the other method was a little bit more arts and crafts and less like beautiful piece of art, where this is like kind of fun to use. Like you get kind of a dopamine hit by like moving the doors and stuff like that. And this kind of communicates our values a little bit better, because it's like this person, they have their own like kind of placard. It has like a nice tangible feel to it. So that's kind of why we went in that direction. So I was on the team that developed that. It was a lot of fun. And going back to the screen share, there's one more thing that I'd like Kelly to speak on, which
could you maybe talk a little bit about how you the arduous journey of deciding on which things to make visible? Takes a long time to pick the right things, but maybe give an example or two of the process.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Oz, what I think you'd be the person best suited for this, because we talk all the time about how you can't make everything visual. You have to be very selective. It's kind of like it's like marketing, where you have to say no to the right things and yes to the right things. And so do you have any input on kind of the thought process that went into that?
Yeah, totally. So the first part is to decide who's the customer. And I think a lot of times when people make things, it's like 10 different customers. So the whole thing gets kind of watered down. So once we select the customer, it's really about constraints. So and contrast. So a lot of times people want to throw everything up there again, and you lose sight of, you lose contrast. It becomes very muddy. So like for an example in the year board, we chose 3 just because if you can't kind of say with 3 main metrics whether or not your department is healthy, basically it's the bare minimum to do it without getting overloaded with a whole bunch of other things. So what we did when we first threw that out there was we asked for them, and this was quite a while ago actually. We asked for them and nobody knew what to put up there. So we just kind of left them blank, or we chose them for people. And then very quickly people said, I don't care about that. I want something different. So it kind of morphed. It allowed an edit as opposed to an initial creation. But really it's deciding who the customer is and being really clear on like the number 1, number 2, number 3 things that you want to show. You want to be able to see from a distance. You want to be able to squint and go, okay, I know we're okay or not okay. So like Destination Guys is a good example of that. Like the thing I wanted to show from across the room was shine our light and our values. So those were the most important things. And then as you get closer, you can kind of dive in. Yeah. That answer your question?
That's really good.
How often do you change?
The bigger thing, probably once every year or 2 years, we make major iterations. You can see that wall is kind of torn up, and we're trying some new things. A good example is Kelly is she wants a couple of changes to some metrics that are different. So we haven't touched the yearboard for a while. So we're going to go ahead and just look at, can we make a total edit to the yearboards and use that as a vehicle to maybe make them better and throw them up. A big part of what we do too is flexibility. So anything the systems we try to make really easy to change and as analog as possible. So if we can print something this afternoon, we'll gladly change it. If we have to go through a sign company or, IT department or write code or other things to make the change, we're more than likely not to make those changes. So the more flexible the systems are, we change them a lot. Yep.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I think you touched on analog, and I think my follow-on question to that is, what do you mean by analog? Because right now most people are working in a digital world, so analog might have to translate that differently. And I think this is also answer Chuck's question there, like how do we decide to use the visual signals like the way that we did? So could you touch on what does analog actually mean? Because that is one of our design tenets. We do want to make things analog first.
Yeah, we do analog before digital. Main reason we do that is analog will be hands-on. So anything that you can kind of have control over, simplest form, it's paper. It's things on the wall. It's I can write on it with a pen. Anne hit on this earlier. So she was saying we used to have stuff on the wall and it was really easy to use and we could just throw Post-its everywhere and we had full control. And now everything's hidden in this digital world. It's behind closed doors. It's harder to get to. So a lot of times, especially departments like IT get tasked with solving your problems. And I don't think, a lot of times you don't even know what your problem is because you haven't explored it and they don't have the knowledge to actually solve your problem. And then once you get it back, you realize, hey, this isn't the thing I actually wanted or needed, but you live with it because it's really, really hard to change. And this isn't a slam on IT peeps. It's just, it takes a lot of work and they're actually being done a disservice to try to solve something you should probably flesh out with Post-its first before you even give it to them. So yeah, that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, the next question I think is a good one for Kelly from Abby here. Do you have ways that project status is virtually communicated to different audiences? So you do a lot of project management. You work with different audiences from customer to design to production and leadership. So how do you have a way of showing some of that visually and maybe virtually?
Well, one of the things that was up on the board, I think you took a picture of our product development. We're visually showing new products that we're testing and bringing through. So we do that. We do a lot of Zoom calls now with our customers, and we actually take them out onto the shop floor and just visually show them. I don't think we're virtually showing any status that way.
That's true. One way that I've seen it done, I'm coaching a team over at Nordstrom from their RM team, and they have a Trello board that shows a lot of their work visually, and it's all virtual because it's on Trello, using different cards that can kind of show photos and then details within that. So it's definitely, there's definitely a way to do it. It's just, like Ann said, it's much easier. You have a wall behind you. Like I have this wall right here with a lot of sticky notes and things that, you know, do the job. But you know, right now we can't do that. So
I think that's why Trello actually is a good in between and works pretty well. It's because it kind of is a digital analog sandbox. You have cards, anybody can move them. You can cheat it a little bit. You can kind of make them what you want it to be, and have a wall. It's just it gets hidden once you don't walk by it every day and see it and interact with it. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Tucker?
Yeah.
It's Dawn. I'm just curious, as you've been working with the RM team, just understanding the complexities of the amount of Trello boards and like what level needs to know what, I think is kind of what we're struggling with on our side of like, do I update this Trello board to then have it cascade to another Trello board to then copy it to another Trello board? It's like, how do you have any advice on how to how to simplify it at all?
Yeah. It's a good question. The way that I've kind of done some simplifying with Trello is they have this Butler feature, and there's a lot of kind of programming you can do that takes a lot of the steps out. So instead of having to like kind of over process the crap out of the board, I can have some shortcuts, some buttons put in that does a lot of that thinking for me. But in reality, going back to Oz's point, like we usually start with any visual tool. It took me a long time to figure this out because I like to like just get it done and write and just like and put it up on the wall and hopefully we're good with it. But doing something in sticky notes and mapping out what it should look like, or whiteboard or whatever, really it's, you know, we could have Trello do whatever we want it to do, but if we don't know what we want and what communication does the customer need, or who's our customer, who's our primary or secondary customer, it doesn't really matter kind of how the board's set up because it's probably going to be wrong. So that's my kind of experience, is basically like go back to the drawing board of like, how does the communication currently flow, usually in sticky note form, and how should it flow, and what things should flow different directions. Taking a step back usually is kind of the thing that I've seen helpful there. Oz, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, with that one too, we've had this problem also. I think where the huddle actually will solve some of those things. So it's maybe trying to use Trello where the huddle should be the communication avenue. So a lot of times within our huddles, we'll have things come from other boards that are important. So it shows up at the level where it should, and we can have that understanding at the level it needs to be. Yeah. But you don't get this clear picture of this, which is hard. So
Whereas, that's good. Okay, well, I think there's one more question here. Rochelle put in there. Where do you start? Like, what's a good starting place? I mentioned for myself, actually, like wireframing it out and kind of figuring out what the buckets look like and how kind of the system works, and kind of create like a plan on something cheap, like a whiteboard or paper, has been my biggest kind of learn. Oz, do you have any input on kind of where to start?
Yeah, I would say what's the most important thing for you to actually see visually, or to understand quickly, and then just that it's craft time. Just make it work. Fiddle with some things. Try it with other people. Get feedback from other people, and then just keep trying through iterations of Post-its, cardboard, tape, whatever you got, and you'll actually, a lot of times we'll get to some place where it seems hokey, but it really works and it's cheap. Just like the beer cups, it's simple. We don't need an electrician. We don't need anything. It's just grab the cups like and run.
Something to put it on is really all it comes down to.
Yeah, like with COVID, really cardboard. Like we we built out whole like production lines with cardboard boxes and masking tape. I don't know how many rolls of masking tape I went through. Yeah. So it's the same deal. It's make it work. Yeah. Try it.
That's actually a good point, because something in our daily huddle came up this morning, where we have some concern about like how to visually like have work kind of go through one of our work cells, and there's a lot of fear in the room, a lot of anxiety, because it's a big deal if we can't get it figured out. And the thing that we kind of landed on was, let's just ask our shipping department for a bunch of boxes that are the right size, and let's just do a simulation and actually visually show and feel the work going through. Because we're going to learn a lot more. That's like the equivalent of like showing your son the son's photo of like the kid versus describing it, where we could talk about it for weeks, months, years, or we could just like, I just got a text from Pete, the box is already made, they're in the wood shop, I'm ready to go right after this. And that's a lot quicker and a lot cheaper than like waiting for the perfect solution or waiting for us to get these orders and be completely screwed. So yeah, simple is beautiful. So cool. Well, we're at it. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just simple is awesome, and quickly trying things. Tuck, what was your last experiment at home?
What was my last? Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Shoot, I was gonna do that. But basically, I created, because I've been working from home a little bit more. My girls think it's the best thing in the world to have dad home. I don't think it's the best thing in the world to be interrupted 5 times a day. So I got construction paper, green and red, and taped one on the door for green and red door, and they follow it flawlessly, except for when I put both up, like stacked, and they threw away the red one, and then it became green, but that was on me. So yeah, good point. Like that's way cheaper than me being interrupted like a million times a day. So, and I get to see them when I want to. So cool. So we are out of time. If you'd like, we have waste tours. Like we're doing waste tours again virtually and safely. We have 2 actually next week, Tuesday and Thursday. We have waste tours scheduled. So if you want to come to that, just reach out and I'll put you on that. If not, if those days don't work, I know it's short notice. We just let me know, and we'd love to continue connecting with you. And then the other thing is the final segment where we're going to go over leader standard work. That's going to be January 13th, same time, 10 o'clock. So yeah, sign up for that if you're interested in going to that. And we'll finish out that series, and then we'll kind of figure out where we want to go after that, because I've been enjoying connecting with you guys, and I think you guys maybe feel the same. So yeah, if you have any kind of closing thoughts, put them in the chat in terms of a reflection.